Hi everyone, and welcome back to Dimensional Wellness. This is DeeDee, and I'm so glad to be here with you today, exchanging some energy. Today we're actually be talking about a serious topic, and it's interesting because I've been, as of recently, really looking into lodestone, magnetite. And that's going to be a whole thing in and of itself, how I even found out about lodestone. But so it's supposed to be this stone, if you haven't heard about it, it's supposed to be the stone that has really intense magnetic properties. And so, of course, in, the magical communities, a lot of people use them for like come to me spells, where like you're drawing someone to you, and love magic and all this type of stuff, which I found very interesting. But also there are a lot of mythology stories that talk about a lodestone mountain at the North Pole, I believe, at the North Pole. And so it got me to thinking, because I saw this week that we actually have magnetite crystals within our minds. And so being able to tap into lodestone energy, theoretically could tap you into the minds of a lot of people if you're using, I think that this is like sympathetic magic, like symbolic magic. And I'm using magic in the term, some people actually do, like a whole ritualistic kind of situation. But I'm more of saying magic, from what I have studied and looked into and have done in certain like moon ceremonies and things like that. Magic really is just about really focused intentions, along with some people use actual spirits of passed on loved ones, random people who don't have family, people who have died violently. I'm sorry, it's so funny because before we moved out to Arizona, I had this visualization one day that my oversoul likes to come like in the form of a Black Panther. And when she's kind of like in her chill mode, she likes to present as like, a more domesticated looking black cat, much like Bassett, right? And so I saw that at some point we are going to be taking in a black cat and like, raising this cat or something like that, which I'm not really looking forward to doing that anytime soon because we have enough kids already, you know what I'm saying? But I saw this cat perfectly, and, it was a black cat with a white diamond on it and, white paws and stuff like that. And at the time, I wasn't seeing any black cats in New Orleans, because sometimes when they give you messages, you're not sure when the message is supposed to take place. And I think that happens for a wide range of things, but I think the main reason is because it's not set in stone, because of course there are other people who are a part of that manifestation. And so people have free will, so they can change the timeline, I feel like it's actually kind of difficult to pin down a specific time frame when you're dealing with people who are constantly changing. So anyways, since we moved out to Mesa, which is actually where they said we were moving to when I first thought about Arizona, which I didn't know what a Mesa was at that point. When we moved to Mesa, like the what do you call it? Like the neighborhood animals are just like black cats. Like there's some, I think you call them tabby cats, they're kind of like orange and white, but it's very few of them. Most of them running around the Mesa area in general are black cats. So I think that's very interesting. So anyways, I was just saying that because there's like, we put out a lot of a lot of trash and stuff. And so we always have them here, by our specific house. And so there's like this little family of like 3 black cats or whatever. And so, they're just like kind of sit and watch, and, they don't run away anymore. They're just kind of chilling and stuff. So anyways, I was trying to see where my little friend went. Anyways, that was like a whole thing, but let me get on task because I could go off on tangents and stuff. Okay, so anyways, Lodestone Mountain, magnetite, and I was thinking about it's very interesting because you could probably magnetize, let's say, like negative entities off of the planet. But then I was thinking about, okay, well, these negative entities, if we negatively charge them, right? And then, put some magnet somewhere else to magnetize them somewhere else. Where would we do that? Like, where do they go? And I was thinking, as I was kind of talking to my spirit team, that it probably would make sense for them to get some type of recycling by some type of portal, and then it would have to have a magnet reflected in the negative realms. So it would be like below 0. So you have, first dimension, second dimension, and then you would have like the sub-zero levels, which no one really wants to go there, I can imagine. Because I even had this dream, which I'll talk about it. Well, actually, I didn't have the dream. That's so funny. My husband actually had this dream that we'll talk about, but some people that I think are considered to be like quote unquote NPCs are actually, their consciousness is mainly residing in either the first dimension, the elemental dimension, or sub-zero. I think 0 is when there's like a merge between some type of avatar and consciousness coming into physicality. And that's why it's the portal, the womb, right? But even though we're in the 3rd dimension, there's still people who majority of their consciousness and lineage. Look, now the cat is going up to our other door. It's a little small cat too. Not a big cat. I wonder if our food is over there. Like, no, because he didn't go towards the food. Okay, focus. Okay, focus. I'm sorry. Let me focus because how far? We're almost 8 minutes in. Okay, so anyways, I was like probably sub-zero. So that made me think about this dream that I had that I wanted to share. And I call them dreams, but they're really not just dreams. Like I'm pretty sure I'm like astral traveling, or like traveling, not projecting, but traveling in the dream realm. And I might have already mentioned this, but the only 2 times that I've had like full lucidity in a dream, something negative has happened and I've been like kicked out of that. Well, that's not exactly true. Oh, see, that's not exactly true. And that's interesting because the thought I had was like, the second time, I don't know if I feel like talking about the second time. But the first time I got kicked out, and that was like in 2015, like when I was pregnant with my daughter. And then just recently this year, I had my second lucid dream experience where I actually didn't get kicked out, but I would have preferred to have been kicked out, honestly. Like, that little cat is coming back. What is that little cat looking for? What you looking for? Cute little thing too. Okay, so anyways, I'm talking about this dream. Then I'm gonna go inside because I have to make sure kids are sleeping and all of those things. Okay, so I'm gonna give a little bit of background before I talk about this dream. Okay, so a little bit of background. Okay, so this is while I was still in New Orleans. It was like, within the 3 months before we left. So this was like winding down to my time in New Orleans. So Thursday Whole Foods that I used to go to pretty much every day. I had like my own little spot, and it was kind of fun because like the lights would flicker over like where I would sit at Whole Foods. There was like 2 spots, and the lights would flicker over those spots, and that's how I knew that like my energy signature was there. So I was sitting at Whole Foods one day, and there was a new guy that was working at the Whole Foods. And that day specifically, I felt called. I bought this like really intricate astrology type of celestial shirt. And I felt really called to wear it. So anyways, I saw this guy, and he wasn't like, he didn't start that day, but in general, he was new to Whole Foods. So I started, so I went to his checkout line, because I felt called to go to his checkout line. And when I went there, he saw my t-shirt, and he was like, oh, is that a Goetia symbol? Now, I sometimes instinctively just say, huh? Because part of my brain heard it, but then the other part is like, oh, you're into the Goetia. That's not what I was expecting, right? Because sometimes we have people that we focus on. Like sometimes there'll be someone that I focus on, and, you know, sometimes like within 30 minutes, you know, they'll come back around, because I usually like to wait to see. So there'll be someone like I'm literally staring at, and then I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be talking to them at some point, right? But then with the spiritual realm, you don't know if like you're supposed to go up and talk to them right now, or, you know, whatever. And so it can get tricky. It can get very, very complicated. And sometimes, you know, I'm focused on someone, and I'm kind of just registering their face, and then I see them like, you know, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, like, oh my gosh, I remember you. You know, those type of situations. And it's always pretty wild, right? So anyways, I was focusing on him since he got there. And I didn't really know exactly why. But anyways, in that moment, he was like, oh, is that connected to the Goetia? Do you work with Goetia spirits? And it's funny because if you listen to my 8-pointed star video, when Newt showed me this 8-pointed star, there's a very specific person that she led me to on YouTube to get the breakdown on what the 8-pointed star was. A very specific person who, I don't want to go too, you know, far off the thing, so I'll, you know, he's mentioned in the other video. But anyways, and he is how I learned about the Goetia spirit, because he is a left-hand practitioner. And so it was so funny because I said, huh, and he assumed that, like, number one, that the shirt wasn't a Goetia shirt, which it wasn't. And then also, like, that I had no clue what he was talking about. And so he just was like, oh, nothing, I don't know. And then he just started ringing up my stuff. And so at that moment, I was like, I could start a conversation about the Goetia, you know, and kind of see, you know, what he's talking about and stuff like that. Or I could just kind of let it play out. So I decided to just let it play out. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I just decided to let it play out. And so I went to go sit down. I went to go eat my food or whatever. And then within, I want to say that it wasn't even a week. I promise you, it wasn't even a week. It was maybe a week. And he popped up in my dream. So let's talk about the dream. And it's so interesting because, you know, like, what I have learned is that I don't fixate on everyone. I don't. There are certain spirits that I get led to. Well, people that I get led to that I focus on. Everybody doesn't show up in my dreams. There are people that, you know, now that I think about it, that I've been friends with or connected to or whatever, and they very rarely show up in my dreams. And I don't even feel like a pull. You know, it could be family, it could be friends, you know, from way back in the G or whatever. Like, I just never think about, or I never dream about. Like, I haven't dreamed about everyone that I've known before. And certain new people, I don't dream about them. You know, there's a few people I think about that I've met, and I've never had a dream about them. Even though I might see connections to them in life, I don't dream about them though. And so anyways, I'm just saying that because I knew that this person, when I was fixating on them, I was like, okay, there must be something here that my spiritual team wants to help them with or talk to them about or whatever, right? Because just in general, my energy is, like, I guess in certain ways, the kind of like a messenger on a light day and kind of like a enforcer, ambassador on a not light day. So anyway, so this is the story about what happened, okay? So I'm in the dream, as most of the time I usually am, and I am orienting myself to what's going on. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out where I am, what I'm doing here. Let me get the sort of, data stream of what's going on, the kind of made up backstory of what I was doing before then. So if I start interacting with people, they don't think that, it's weird because I don't know who they are, even though they probably feel like they just talked to me or they've known me forever. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm picking up the data stream, everything like that. And I notice that I am at a bonfire. And it's interesting. So I'm going to mention this because something very deep is coming up and I'm not exactly sure how it's connected just yet. But I'm going to mention it. But okay, so hold on. So I'm at this bonfire and I know that it is a bonfire that I was texted to go to. So I was not invited to this bonfire, but somebody sent me a text message on my phone, some type of communication. And they're like, we need you to show up to this bonfire. And so as I was rereading the text in my phone about the location of it, which I don't remember, but when they're telling me the location, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, there must be someone I'm coming to collect here. Like the collector, I guess. I'm thinking about The Bone Collector, which of course I haven't seen that movie, but I've heard of it and that's what's popping up in my mind. So I might watch that, I might not, because it's giving me eerie vibes, because this dream experience was a very eerie one. You know what? I'm gonna actually just pause this. You guys won't know the difference, but actually I'm gonna just pause this and I'm gonna finish this during the day, because I don't want nothing spooky going on in my house tonight. All right, everyone. I was so serious. Okay, so it is 12:55 the next day. Okay, it's the 27th. I'm about to get ready for this full moon in Aries, which I know is going to be huge. And it's so interesting because I think that I mentioned this at the beginning that, I was doing, I redid this a few times because I thought I was just talking too much. And so the first take I did, I saw 257, and I have been seeing that in connection with this Loa, right? So Loa, LWA, if you don't know about the Voodoo Pantheon and the Loas. Now they're also, I think in the Orisha, no, they call them Orishas. Okay. Because I was about to say, but I have heard people who talk about the Orishas also talk about, I don't know, whatever. We just gonna keep it with the Voodoo Pantheon, okay? So Loas, LWA, which is also an anagram of law, right? Sometimes it's also spelled like LOA, like law of attraction. And so anyways, there's a specific Loa that is, that came through with that connection to 257. So let me do a brief explanation of this. So numbers can mean a variety of things, okay? So 257, 527, 752, but specifically right now, 257 was coming through with Grand Bawal. So I'm not saying Baron, even though they might be connected, I'm not sure, but Bawal, which is BWA. And there's also another energy who came through with 817, who is Marinette Bawanshesh. Okay. Now I'm not going to talk about her right now because that's a whole nother story. But if you've been seeing 257, when you heard this message at this time, the 257 could be telling you to look into the Loa, the Gran, Gran, Bawon, BWA. Okay. Now there is a whole nother situation with Gran Bawon that I will go into at another time, because this is not talking about that right now. But that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing. And especially when I start getting into like celebrity dreams that I've had, like, I've had about 2 or 3 podcast things, like some of them might still be online out there, but I've had about 2 or 3, and it just gets to a point where I'm like, well, I'm not sure if I should have said their name and stuff like that, because what magic tries to do. Now, I'm not talking about that I've been doing magic to get into people's dreams, because I 1,000% have not. I just have not done that. Like, I don't set conditions or whatever to like go in somebody's dream and influence it. I don't do that. And I haven't done that. Most of the time, just something that I naturally am in tune with is the dream world. And so people come in dreams. But I'm just saying, like, this is connected because we're talking about loas, and a lot of people use loas to get something done for them, or people associate themselves, to a loa in order to gain something, whether it's protection, whether it's money, whether it's control over someone. So that's what I'm talking about, magic. And so we're talking about, sometimes people can be casting their magic, like, let's say, in the air or in the astrals or astral temples and stuff like that. And it can be difficult to see, exactly what you're casting it to, right? Because you have to have like a vision of what you're casting and where it's going, because people have multiple different realities. They have multiple different versions even of themselves. And so what magic tries to do, especially when you start getting into like chaos magic, which is something I've definitely been looking into and stuff like that, it's about finding that specific person that you're trying to influence, not an essence of them, not a reflection of them, anything like that. And I'm saying that because what I have learned in the dream world is that sometimes I'm being pulled into someone's dream, and it is not necessarily the 3D version of them. So they might not be aware that I'm in their energy field, because I'm talking to a different aspect of them, either a parallel version, right? So like the parallel version could be compared to Mandela effects. So some people remember it one way, some people remember it a different way. It's not either or, but there have been shifts in reality to where literally you could be talking to a parallel version of someone that you've been knowing for a long time, but there was a shift that happened. And so now you're not talking to the original aspect of them that you were friends with. Something happened to where now you're talking to a parallel aspect of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so I'm just bringing that up because, when I talk about dreams with people that I don't know, that a lot of people, associate to, sometimes it can be challenging to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that, because that could actually be something going on in their reality, and I don't want to be spilling the beans, even though it's kind of tricky, right? Because once it comes into my reality, then I'm also a part of that equation. Anyways, that's a lot to talk about, but anyways, Gran Bawon has associated himself or has affiliated himself with a specific celebrity, which if you're paying attention, it wouldn't be hard to figure out who it is at all, actually. But anyways, I'm getting everywhere. But anyways, what I found out is that this full moon in Aries that's coming up on the 29th, which 29 is a very significant day for me too. especially 929 and then 629. And it's also connected very strongly. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's also really connected very strongly into the Scorpio moon back in 2020, I believe. That was on May 8th. So if you have some stuff going on around that time, this is also connected to those energies, which I'll talk about that in a different time period too. So anyways, here, mountain time in Arizona, that is when this full moon in Aries is going to be at its peak. Is going to be at 2:57 a.m. When I saw that today, I almost fell out of my chair when I saw that. I literally almost fell out of my chair when I saw that it was going to be at 2:57. So this is something big going on with him now. I don't know specifically how Baron, yeah, that's how they said it, Baron. So maybe it is Baron. I don't know. Maybe it is like another version of, I don't know. It says that it means big wood or big tree, I think. He is like the grand tree. I'm not sure how it's connected to this right now, but I'm going to talk about it because that's what I feel called to talk about today. Okay. Dang. I know. I've been like talking. Okay, let's get into it because it's already 26 minutes. Wow. Okay. But I'm just going to say that this is all relevant. So I'm going to keep it in there. Okay. And we're going to have timestamps. Okay. So what happened? This is what happened. So the bonfire is going on. And like I said, I didn't get invited, but I got the text message that was going on to go over there. Okay. And they were roasting a huge pig. Now I'm going to get back to the pig in a little bit. Well, you know what? Because I might forget about it. Let me just say it now. Okay. They were roasting a female pig on this bonfire. And there is something about the pig that is specifically connected into the energy of divine feminine tantric essence. There is an energy that's been coming up for me for like the past month and a half, I would say, like making their presence known. That is a Dakini Varahi, Varahi, I believe. Wait, Varaji? Child, put it in Google, it'll come up. I forgot exactly how to spell it, but Varahi. And she is a female Dakini Skywalker, essence of divine feminine that can come in the color red, and she usually has the face of a sow, a pig, warthog, something like that. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, this is some type of ritual, because Dakinis are also connected to fire. I also think they're connected to Gen energy, these flameless souls, right? Not flameless, I'm sorry. Smokeless flame. Let me be careful on how I'm saying that. It has a flame, but it doesn't create smoke. And that's supposed to be what the gens were created with, right? Because if you look into the Dakini story, they are from a place that I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but when I see it, it says origin. They are the Ori-gen, the original gens, the original geniuses, right? And then if you go into African tradition, you have the Ori, which is the head of the jinn, okay? And that is supposed to be your crown, your Ori, okay? Something that's crowning your head, but you also have a spiritual counterpart of your Ori, which would be like your higher self, and things like that from what I know online on YouTube. I haven't had like a serious in-depth discussion with Ori in the spiritual realm about what it is, but that's what I understand it to be. And so there's a lot going on with that, with this bonfire that was going on, okay? And what I noticed, interestingly, so I'm just putting that together recently. Okay, so I didn't know this when the dream was happening, like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm putting this together right now, real time. Okay. But when I think back to that dream, the interesting thing was that while they were roasting this pig, there were not a lot of women that I saw, at this bonfire. And, excuse me, I'm really, really gassy today. I'm so sorry, okay? Forgive me, okay? I also noticed that there might have been like one other black person there. Most of them were very European looking. And I also remember specifically that a lot of them have black hair, and definitely like not full gothic, but I don't know, like modern gothic, I guess. So not like full black everything, but definitely a lot of black surrounding them, which I thought was interesting. So anyways, I'm just kind of on the edge of the woods going into this bonfire, which I guess you could compare it to like Burning Man. I've never been to Burning Man, but that's what I'm thinking about in my head, Burning Man. So as I'm walking up to this bonfire, like I said, I'm kind of getting the information about, what's going on, where I am, so that I can have a conversation with the people around, right? So that I blend in and I don't, blah, 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 blah. Enough information to blend in. So I'm going towards the bonfire and I'm scanning this area because I know that I'm here for something, to collect something, to come and get something, okay? So as I'm walking, I see all these kind of little groups of people, and they're talking and laughing and blah, 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 and when you think about it in this way, it's very interesting, but it's like, like everybody is laughing and having a good time while like literally this pig is like roasting in the fire. It's like such, and you could, I'm not trying to be graphic, but this is what crackling is, like while its skin is literally bubbling and boiling and crackling. Like if you really think about it outside of what has been normalized in society, it's really graphic. Like it's strange. And so like they're laughing, having a good time. The pig is dead. And so as I'm walking towards this, I start walking directly towards the actual bonfire itself. The actual fire that's going on. And as I get there, I see this group of 3 men talking to each other, and I see the guy from Whole Foods. This is in the dream, okay? Now, like I said, I'm not completely lucid enough, right? Because if I'm completely lucid, then I would be able to touch him and be like, you need to wake up. So I'm not that lucid, but I immediately recognize him. So when I say I'm not that completely lucid, I don't remember, like in waking life, I have seen this guy before at Whole Foods. But when I saw him, I recognized him. And I couldn't place how I recognized him, but I recognized him. So I went up to him, and he didn't really recognize me, but enough to say hey though. But it wasn't one of those awkward heys like, who is this girl, like coming over here. It was like, I really can't recall where I've seen you before, but hey. And so the other kind of men kind of like, back up because they don't know how I know him, or they don't know if we're together or whatever. So I go up to him because I immediately know that this is who I'm here for. So I go up to him, and as I'm talking to him, his eyes turn yellow. I swear to you, as I'm talking to him, his eyes turn yellow and they get those slits, like reptilian, snake eye kind of thing, right? Kind of look like cat's eyes too. Immediately. And so, like I said, in the dream world, you can't freak out. Like, regardless of what you see, you have to stay as calm as you possibly can, because the minute you freak out, you change the situation, like Einstein's theory of relativity. Is that what it is? Like your energy changes the situation. So you have to stay as calm and neutral as possible, because you react and you change things. So I saw that. Now the boy, I'm sorry, he's a man, but the man did not know that this entity was inside of him. He did not feel the shiver when this being flashed its eyes. And it was specifically doing that to me to try to scare me so that I would leave it alone, because I guess he could sense that I was coming for him. And so when I got up on this guy, I held his head really close to me, just like a baby. Like, you know, when you have that newborn baby, you put him over your shoulder and you hold his head really close to you. You don't want him to, you know, go backwards and like mess up his neck and stuff, because babies are still figuring out their neck control. So I was holding him just like a baby on my right side, and I started whispering in his left ear. Immediately I started whispering a language that I don't know what it was. And he got to squirming and moving, and I was holding him as closely as I can. So as I was doing it more, right? So in my mind, I'm like, what language am I speaking right now? Because I don't, like, I remembered it, but it was like I hadn't spoken it in so long that I forgot what the words were. But I was like, okay, DeeDee, if we just keep speaking it long enough, like, muscle memory will take over, and, like, you know, auric memory will take over, and eventually we could fake it till we make it, till we actually remember what we're saying. Because it had been a while since I had spoken this language. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is Sumerian. And so I was able to really start speaking it. It was Sumerian language. And so eventually the boy passed out. You know, all the people are kind of sort of freaking out, but I couldn't really focus on that, because what I did not remember, right? You always gotta be thinking on your toes, because, child, there's always something going on. So he passed out, and immediately I saw the spirit leave his body, and he was just in the air. And so I knew that he was gonna go find another body. And so I was like, oh, dang. Sumerian dislodges the energy, but it does not capture it. Okay, so that's the issue. I mean, that's not the only issue, obviously, but one of the big issues with killing someone is that you just take them out of the body. And so they're free to just haunt you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe some people don't. But I'm like, it really doesn't make sense for you to kill someone, because when you kill them, you dislodge them from the body. So now they don't have as many constraints. And so they're like free to just haunt you. And that's like understanding, you know, the concept of the keel of the boat, right? Keel of the boat. The keel of the boat is the connector. It's a bonding tool. So you kill someone, you bond them to you spiritually. Okay, so anyways, I just wanted to say that. So I was like, oh my gosh, I dislodged him. I you know, took him out of the body, and now I have to figure out how to you know, put him back into something. So as I'm like running towards him, because he's just like kind of in the air, hovering and like looking for the next person, he kind of like moves the reality. It was very wild. He moves the reality, and the next thing I know, I'm in this kind of, I don't know how to explain this place. It was kind of like a clown town. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the clown tents. It was kind of like a clown tent town. I don't even know. But anyways, so the walkways were kind of like, you know, tent material, and I had my kids and my husband in the center, the big tent. Okay, so my kids and stuff were in the big tent, but this material is not material enough to keep anything out, right? I mean, but anyways, when you're dealing with spirits anyway, there's nothing that's going to keep them out that's a material. Sound is what moves them or traps them or something like that. Materials, so like, you know, you move houses, that has nothing to do with a spirit coming to talk to you or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sounds, that's what moves spirits. So anyways, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, he must be coming after me now. So I'm like trying to, you know, speak a language in the tent to keep everybody in, right? But I have kids, small kids, so they're running around acting a fool. I can't get them to stay in one area to put the sound barrier around everything. I mean, it was a mess. Like, it literally was a mess. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, sound. So there's got to be sound frequencies for true spiritual protection. Oh, well, that makes sense, because sirens, they give off a certain frequency that keeps things away. So if you put in earplugs, that would block out sound. So then you would have to do telepathic sounds. Okay. So anyways, I'm trying to gather up the kids. I'm trying to, figure out how to put something, because I couldn't quite remember in that dream how to protect them. I couldn't really remember it. So anyways, I felt this shift in the atmosphere outside, so I knew that this thing was coming. So I was like, I don't really have time. Like, the kids are going to be running around all out of the tent and around this place, and it's just going to be a mess. So I'm going to just have to go address this energy directly. So I go to him directly, and he's like a black shadow figure still hovering in the air with these golden yellow eyes. Okay. And I immediately recognize him as a Jupiter being. So let me say this too. I have had dreams of terraforming Jupiter. So this is not the only type of being that is on Jupiter. So I'm not saying that all Jupiter beings are like this. I'm just saying that his origin space is that he was from Jupiter. So I'm not saying that all Jupiter beings are negative or anything like that. I'm just talking about where his soul was coming from Jupiter. Okay. So as I'm staring at him in the eyes, we're like battling each other with energy and stuff like that. It was absolutely nuts. It was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. And so we're like battling each other, and then he retreats. He disappears. So I'm like, okay, well, he's probably going to switch the reality again. And so I'm going to have to be aware, because he's retreating because he knows that this is not working. So he's going to try something else. So I kid you not, and this was so wild. So he switches the reality again. Now I'm conscious of this, okay? But this time he switches the reality to look like my house. Okay, because this is exactly what my house looked like at the time that me and my husband and kids were staying in our house. It looked exactly like our house. And it was interesting because it looked like what my husband and I were doing at that time. So at this specific time that I had this dream, we had just gotten this really cool projector screen to turn the projector screen into a TV. And the kids, as kids, they naturally take over a lot of stuff, right? And so the kids were watching the projection screen a lot. So we just decided this week, during this, oh, look, 21 million. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Where is 21 million? I don't know, but bring it to me, friend. Okay, anyways. So I just saw that on somebody's license plate. It says 21M, and every time I see 21 or whatever M, I say 21 million. And then when I see K, I'm like, 78K. Like, yeah, I'll take $78,000, of course. Okay, so anyways, back to what I'm saying. So we had decided this week that we were just going to put the kids to bed, and we were just going to binge watch Marvel movies and DC movies. So I can't remember exactly what movies we were watching at night, but I definitely know that we were definitely watching Mrs. Marvel, I believe. And we were definitely watching I think that was when we were watching Black Widow. Before I even knew the Black Widow connections. But when I was watching that movie, it was something about it that I actually watched it in 2 parts, because it was actually really emotional for me to watch, which I thought was very interesting at the time. But I had this dream around that time that I was watching Black Widow, which in another video, I'll talk about Black Widow and the connections to Black Widow and the SS and the SEs, the also Essenes, and all these different things a little bit later. That's a whole nother topic. But I remember that movie was so, it was so impactful that I had to watch it 2 different days. So anyways, that's what we were doing tonight. So anyways, when he switched the scene, that's what we were doing. So it was me and my husband sitting on the couch, and we were finishing a movie that we were supposed to be watching. So I thought that we were in reality, but I didn't really think that, because I was able to continue my consciousness. So I knew that like this energy was somewhere, but I couldn't necessarily tell if I was awake or not, but I knew that energy was somewhere. So anyways, we're like sitting on the couch, me and my husband were like eating popcorn and stuff, watching this movie. And I'm like, this is really strange, because is this what I went to sleep doing? I thought I already went to sleep. That's what I was saying to myself. And it was something that this thing did, where I realized that it was in my husband. It did something. And I was like, oh, okay. He's pretending to be Ray right now. And then probably what he's going to do is like he's probably going to stretch and be like, oh yeah, let's go to bed, honey, blah, 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 blah. And then he's probably going to try to strangle me in my sleep. That's literally what I thought. But when you're in the dream world, what are you supposed to do? You got to keep calm. So I couldn't freak out. I couldn't be like, oh my gosh, he's going to kill me. I couldn't run out the door and run away, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I need a strategy, because I've got to handle this head on. So child, I'm like dreading when the movie ends, like the credits starts going, because it literally felt like we watched the end of the movie. The credits are going, and that's when he said that he's like, okay, so let's go ahead and get to bed, and he's got mannerisms like Ray. Not exactly, but enough that if you're not super lucid, you wouldn't really, it's not enough to like be like, who are you? Be like, oh, they're acting kind of weird today. So he's like, let's go to bed. So as we're walking down the hallway to go to our room, I'm like, oh, snap, here it comes. Oh, snap, here it comes, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because I couldn't remember what the language was, to entrap him. I couldn't remember it. So I'm like, holy Jesus, ancestors, everybody, whoever that's ever talked to me before, help me to remember how to, in my head, of course. I'm like, help me to remember this language, because I don't remember. Like, if I keep using Sumerian, it's just going to keep dislodging him from the body. So he's just going to keep coming in all these different forms, right? Child, so we're laying in the bed, and we're staring at each other's eyes, and I can see the yellow. I don't think he even knows that I can see his yellow eyes. So at this point, it's definitely confirmed. And so I'm talking to him normal and stuff like that, because I'm still trying to think about it. I'm hoping that Hail Mary gonna come through and be like, here's the language, remember it. And so anyway, so he's like, yeah, let's go to sleep. So I even cuddle with him, like I cuddle with Ray, we're like spooning, getting real comfortable under it. And I feel him starting to pull his arm, and I know he's about to try to like smother me with the pillow, right? Like it's about to be over with. So I'm like, dang, what is it? And so out of nowhere, I promise you, out of nowhere, and I'm like, thank goodness, they always come through in the clutch. It's always at the very last not always. Sometimes it's at the very last moment. But I remembered that it was the language of the birds. It was the angelic language that entraps them in the Merkaba. Okay, so the Merkaba is also an entrapping device. You could use it. You could probably use it as a portal to keep you enclosed in something. Let me say that. Well, no, because some of them are entrapping devices, but it's an enclosure device also. I don't know the other functions of it. I don't remember. But the language of the birds, the language of the angels, is what creates the structure out of sound. And it's kind of rotates and everything like that to enclose them with both the light and dark frequencies. And so they are entrapped in the middle. And then you can also like put some more language in there, and it'll actually compress and lock. So it locks in a spin. So it locks in movement. It doesn't stop moving. It locks in movement, in consistent, fast movement. And then some that are even more advanced will lock in a variation of chaotic movements so that you can't figure out how to get out of it. So pretty much once you get to that point, you're going to the council. Now, exactly which council, I don't exactly remember, but there is a council that you don't want to be part of. So this is not the light council, okay? Let me make that clear to you. This is not no light council. This is not, council of light beings or whatever. That's going to be like, oh, yeah, you need to, we need to give him more love and blah, 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 blah. This is like the dark council. And so, it's always very interesting when I come across certain spiritual people who, feel like they're, in tune with their dark side and, they're going to go through the Lucifer process, the enlightenment process, right? And they think that that's about, I don't know, like being the best bad guy you could possibly be. And then when you get to the other side, Lucifer is going to be like, like high-fiving you that you caused so much chaos on earth and you were reckless and stole souls in his name that you're going to be like his favorite pet. That's not how it works. I promise you that's not how it works, because you're dealing with Saturn energy, and that is not what Saturn or Sirius are about. It's not. Ooh, it's 1:33. I'm saying that, okay? It's not. That is not what Saturn or Sirius energy is about. You are not going to get a high five for being the most terrible person on earth and stealing souls and encroaching on people's free will and stuff like that. You're going to get a very bad spanking, and I just don't recommend it. So like I said, I don't remember what that council is called, but I definitely do know that it's connected to vultures, especially black vultures. So, if there's something really negative that you're doing, now I'm not talking about crows, okay? And I'm not talking about black doves, because the black doves are, like the lighter frequency of this. But when they start, when the energy is directed to you, that you're being negative, like that they need to come and check you, it's probably going to be black vultures that show up, black buzzards, okay? Like I said, black doves is what I have gathered is more of like, maybe coming to tell you that things are going on and to let you be in on the know. But when it's you, that's the negative energy. Black vultures show up because they are, something like a gatekeeper, not quite a gatekeeper, but a gate watcher, let's say, a gate watcher. Make sure nothing goes in, goes out that ain't supposed to be where it's supposed to be. Okay, so, I thought that would be interesting to share. Just normal spiritual dynamic things. So I'm still figuring out a lot of these things. I know I talk with like a lot of authority and a lot of surety and stuff like that, because a lot of stuff that I do talk about are things that I have personally had experience. Oh, look, it says Drain Squad. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm still learning and piecing things together. So there could be variations of it, as life experiences go on. I'll probably have more information on it, more detailed information. That's much as I know right now. So it's a really good place to start. Okay. All right, my friends. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share. I'll put my information in the description box below. If you have any questions, comment once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, come back, save it, comment again. I'm here for it. I do want to eventually do a website, like just a specific website where we can do like a forum and go back and talk about, different things and energies. But until now, right now, we're going to utilize the YouTube platform. That's what I have for you guys. So make sure that you subscribe and everything. Oh, and did I say that I'm going to be doing a Christmas theme pick a card reading channel? So I'm going to do pick a card readings and probably new moon, full moon ceremonies, scripting ceremonies on this Christmas. So it's not going to be all Christmas themed pick a card readings, but the decorum is going to be Christmas. I'm born the day after Christmas, so I thought that would be fun. And then we'll also be talking about the Great Attractor. That's going to be a thing that I am putting together, Great Attractor energy, Great Attractor magic. So yeah, when I get that together, I will definitely update the description so you can come over to that channel. All right, bye.